So I'm hanging out with the Fort Wayne Mash Club. I really want to just figure out more about the club and what members can expect, and just what is the club? What's its purpose?
I've only been president for a year. As I see how the club is, it's a group of individuals who are either brewing beer or know a lot about beer, and they're kind of just sharing their interests and sharing their knowledge, either through brewing beer and bringing it to meetings, or people have been certified as judges, so they know what they're drinking. It's not just this is a good beer and a bad beer kind of thing. They can dial stuff in. So it's basically just a group of people that are enjoying the craft beer industry, and they're brewing at home as well. So
yeah, and we really like to bring the educational aspect into it. So it's not just a group of us getting together and getting drunk. Safety
That's fun too, but
it is. But we have to be safe, and we wanna expand our knowledge and brew better beer. So that's the end game, right? Be a better brewer.
yeah,
Sure.
Make better beer.
Sure.
right. It's kind of cool too when you think about it. Like when you talk about the Fort Wayne beer, a lot of it falls back to the Mash Club through years and years and years and years, depending on, from like Fortlandia, those 4 guys are all us. Dot Line that just opened, he used to be a member, all the way back to Matt Anthony, which is one of the original people that helped start this club. So
Hop River.
Hop River as well, yeah.
Guys, so
Summit City.
Summit City, Ambrosia. You can go on and on. Two Toms.
All of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
More or
there's-
less all of them.
So when you think about Fort Wayne beer, you also think about Mash Club. So people really don't see that aspect, that a group of people were brewing together, and people started being successful and further on, and they jumped that ship from doing it in a garage, as you did with me yesterday, to a location that are selling beer. So it's kind of cool to see.
Hobby do a job.
Yeah, hobby to a career.
Hobby do a job.
That was something I didn't realize going into the actual meeting, was how much of a sounding or a board it was going to be. That you bring your beer and it's going to be judged. It's going to be, you're going to get feedback on what your creation.
absolutely.
The meetings kind of go, or they have different directions they go. I mean, depending on what beers are brought and what you want from the meeting, you can tell people that you want critique. You want to know if the beer fits the style, or is it just a good beer? You have to come to these meetings with kind of a thick skin and a sense of humor, because if you bring a shit beer, even if you like it, if it isn't a style or something's wrong with it, more than likely somebody's going to tell you about it. Or if it's a great beer, somebody will tell you, what points you're hitting. So you kind of have to have a thick skin about it, and take criticism well, and realize that people are just trying to help you make your beer better.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a good handful of judges that are in our club as well. So if anyone comes to a meeting and they're like, hey, competition's going to be coming up later this year, I'd really like some judges to weigh in on this and tell me, even what category do I put this in? Where should I ferment at? All these different things that can go into that beer. It's really great that we have some awesome guys who can help dial those beers in. And we have some really great guys doing some really awesome things with their beer. They're winning awards. And everything from local smaller competitions to our big one that we do down in Indy. So it's the club, really, like Bob said, it can be what you make it. If it's just a hobby, you just like to do it on the side, tastes good to you, doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, cool. But if you also want to go a bit farther and send it to competitions, we're also there to be able to help you with that too.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely levels of our club. Like, we have people that are just starting brewing. We have people that are brewing, and no matter what everyone says, this is what they like, and that's what they're going to brew. We have guys that are trying to advance their skills to start placing in these competitions, and then we have guys that are brewing at the top of their level that just, honestly probably could open a brewery and be successful, but they're just like, I don't like that aspect behind it. We want to brew in our garage and share with you guys. So,
Too much work.
yeah, which is it's a win-win for us as members, because we're trying all those beers, and a lot of those guys, when you start bringing beers to the club, you're like, wow, these are so good, and then you see them make that jump. We're drinking 2 Toms today, and one of the beers that his Dark Necessity, that is now one of his Barrel Series beers, was one of the ones I first finally drank, and I was like, we can do this at home? Like I just brewed, average beers, and I had that beer and was like, the flavor is phenomenal. This is great. Like, how can you do this? And it was a year later, and he's opening up 2 Toms, and now he has a full-on, probably one of the largest successful breweries here in Fort Wayne at the moment because of his push and his interest in different things he's doing. So.
I think historically, it's all been just early on when I was in there was a lot of people that were really good brewers, and some of them were just fumbling around trying to figure out what it is they're actually doing, and they would bounce ideas off of people, and it got to a point, about within the next 5 or 6 years or so, that people started just, going over to somebody's house and watching them brew and picking apart the things that they should do, or things that they don't do. It helps people get to be better brewers. It's a little awkward when you start out with somebody that just showed up at the club for the first time and they brought a beer, and it's terrible.
Probably happens more often than you think.
Well, it does.
All the time.
And when you look at like homebrewed beers, you judge them, or you not judge them, but you feel like they should be commercial examples. So if you go to get a commercial beer, you're gonna have something that's really clean. It's been well thought out and tested, and then it doesn't hit the market if it's junk. And if you do this long enough, you're able to pick out the things in a beer that taste different that shouldn't be, and you know what causes those things to cause that kind of flavor in a beer, and you say, look, just stop doing that. Yeah. Okay, stop fermenting too hot so that you don't get this alcohol burn in the back of your mouth. Drop it down to like a regular kind of temperature when you're fermenting, and there's a lot of those kinds of things you can get people to kind of understand. It's just difficult sometimes. You get a brand new brewer that just spent an 8-hour brew day, and then they got to wait a week for it to ferment, or a week and a half, and then they got to wait another 2 weeks for it to carbonate if they're doing bottle conditioning. Those kinds of things, and you put that much effort and time and everything else into something you spent that time of your life,
it's your baby,
and it's junk, or it's really good. But sometimes the second one isn't as good. Mm-hmm. What you want for that person is to first of all figure out whether or not they like their beer, and if they do, fine, but hey, try this differently next time. But yeah, it's the club is able to get people to consistently brew better beer, and I've watched the Fortlandia guys when they first showed up in the club. They're brewing great beer right now, by the way. Solid, clean. The German beers that they're doing are great. The fruit beers, fruit or sours? What are they doing?
Sours as well too. Both actually.
Yeah. Very good. Jerry's brewing some really crazy, some really big high gravity beers that are really good. I watched them fumble around for some stuff, and eventually they started brewing all of them collectively better and better and better. I'm like, there you go.
That's kind of where the feedback comes into play, because
it's essential.
If there's something that you're looking for in a beer, maybe this person tastes it or that person doesn't taste it, and you take those notes, and it helps you to develop your recipe to come up with more, a more pinpointed taste in your beer. Taste is all subjective. There's things that I'll pick out that he won't pick out, or that she'll pick out, and certain people they taste different things in beers, whether it be good or bad. So it allows you to adjust your recipe to get to a point where this is the flavor I'm looking for, this is the body I'm looking for, the alcohol content or what have you. So it's nice to get that feedback.
Yeah.
Yep. It could also depend on what you ate that morning versus what you facing that day.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into the history, and that's where you guys will really jump in. But as far as new members and what they can expect, what does it take to be a member? What can they expect throughout the year as far as, is it just monthly meetings? What's all involved?
That's a tough one this year.
Yeah, so like I said, this is my first year as a president of the club. Mm-hmm. I've only been a member for about 3 or 4 years now. Mm-hmm. This year was our first year of fully paid membership. And so it's $25 a year, but we have multiple different sections. So we have a Facebook group that's non-member that you can go and you can get on there and want to deliver beer to everybody?
Holy shit. Come on.
There you go.
Good beer delivery, huh?
All right.
Can I put it in order?
Yeah.
No.
you can hop on this Facebook page, and it's completely free. We have probably 500 members on there. A lot of people jumped on, joined, and they've never seen it again. And then we have what's called our paid membership page, which is $25 a year. And ultimately, the goal is to have in-club competitions, all sorts of different, where we can go watch these professional brewers brew and learn some things from them. We have what's called grain buys, which is us being able to buy a full bag of grain for a lot cheaper than we can buy on the internet currently.
That's wholesale bulk and then distributed.
Yeah, so the breweries here in town, we'll partner with them and we'll buy through their sellers. So, for example, like Two Toms, we'll place an order through him. He'll order it all for us, and we pay what he pays, which is a whole lot cheaper than we can buy online. So really, like, if for example, if you just do one grain buy, your $25 is back instantly.
Yeah.
The last grain buy, I bought 4 bags, and I saved what would be almost like $150. And I'm still brewing on it, and that was in June. So it's like I'm still using it. This year has been quite different. We didn't do club meetings for 6 months. We
did
had
one
some
group grain buy.
group grain buy. Yeah, we have one in December. So if you're interested in the home brewing idea, I always say just jump on and join the non-members page, because even there, all the people that are members are still answering questions on
There's
that
plenty
page.
of information.
Yeah,
Sure.
if you ask and say, hey, this is what I did, what I do wrong, someone's going to chime in and help you. Or, hey, I want to learn how to do this. Like, anytime I brew, my garage door is open and I let anybody in here. Because if people drink my beer, I get to brew more. And that allows me to do different things and try different things.
You want to give out your address? We can all.
Don't do that. You can reach out to me on Facebook and
don't do that.
we'll see how it goes. But if you want to learn, if you want to see what's going on, things like that, that's what the club is at. So.
Right, Bob?
Do you want to?
Oh gosh.
I didn't ask for a beer. No, I'm not drinking Bud Light. Get that shit out of
It's like,
here.
yeah.
I didn't ask for water.
Make sure you leave my Natter Days alone in there. There's one
It's
left.
in our president's cooler, so. Really,
Everybody
Carl? Really?
makes mistakes,
Carl,
right?
really?
So when you gave
So-
me an eyebrow a second ago, was that strawberry jelly rancher you're getting in that beer? Where did you
Straight.
No, it was just. It was watermelonish.
Watermelon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a watermelon scoop,
Oh,
man.
yeah, watermelon, like almost Jolly Rancher.
Yeah.
I really like that. That was
candy.
good.
Yeah.
Better than your trash sour.
It does
Bud
smell.
Light.
It does smell
And
like.
that's the harsh feedback we were talking about.
Yes. It does smell.
Thick
It does
skin.
smell like wet hay.
It does. Like, you
I'm
just
good.
straight walked into the barn.
You might need some water to rinse out the glass.
No, I just did.
I like
Thanks.
this one.
I was like, this is the best beer all night.
Hey,
We're a homebrew club passing around a Bud Light. What the hell are we doing?
Nice.
The end of the meetings used to come with us ordering 2 to 3 pitchers of
Miller?
PBR.
Oh, I'm down for that.
PBR
Nothing
or
wrong with
I'm
PBR.
down for
there
that.
isn't.
Yeah.
It's got the best flavor.
Where's
of
my
all the
Banquet.
big
Yeah.
beers.
Banquet. All right, next question.
But yeah, that's where we see the club going. I mean,
Okay.
so hopefully we keep growing. I think it's going to be depend on who you talk to. I really enjoy the competitions. And if you get down to Indianapolis at the Brewers Cup, every year we get destroyed by a club down there. They're called the Foam Blowers. I would hope one day to dethrone them from the top. But it's just going to take us continuing to submit good beer and brew good beer and get to that level. So we have guys that don't brew ever. And come and drink free beer, and so if they start brewing beer, we might be able to do that. So
Yeah,
Right.
Carl.
could.
Brew.
I could brew more than I
So-
do.
Who's talking? Oh.
All right.
Pretty hard to get.
So get into the history. How long have you guys been a member? How long has the group been around? Just
Every
tell me a
time I
little
have
bit
to do
about
this
the.
math,
I know we have to do the math, and I got to kick my shoes off.
I'm at 4 years, so I'm out. That's where I'm at.
I started the club in 2005. My wife had bought me a Mr. Beer kit in 2000, and once a year from then till 2005, I had taken it out of the box, cleaned it, read the directions, and put it away, and never made it.
Exactly what I did too, by the way, for about 2 years.
And then I decided I was going to finally start doing all grain. I bought my gear, a couple of internet forums were really helpful, and then I took a class at former homebrew supply Brewers Art. And from there, full speed ahead. Went straight into kegging, All Grain Brewing, and 6 months or 8 months after I joined the club, I became president as the first actual voted on president,
Okay.
and served 2 terms.
Yeah. I might have had you by about 6 months, I think.
Yeah, he was ahead of me, so.
And then you brewed professionally for a while too, right?
I did. I worked for 2 years for Warbird. I was in packaging and processing and cellaring, and then the last 3 months that they were open, I was the head brewer. So I got to make beer and dump beer for Warbird. So
There you go.
that was it was a nice step up. It's taking a hobby to a profession.
Yeah. Quantity is a big deal. It
Quantity is a
changes
huge deal.
A lot of what you've been doing. Now you're making 5-gallon batches, and then all of a sudden you got to do that. It's,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a lot.
You go from a quarter barrel to 15, 20 barrel batches. It's a big
Yeah.
step. So, but it was interesting. It was taking a hobby to a job. So.
Yeah, I got into homebrewing just by buying a kit. My parents bought me something for my birthday. I started reading the book, and I'm like, this is too hard. And I just didn't do it. It's just went in my attic for 3 years. And a friend of mine, we were sitting around drinking beers, and he's like, hey, we could probably brew something like this. I'm like, I got a kit. He's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, let's do it, So I went, and the old stuff I had was bad, and I went and bought another cup. It's basically the 2-can dump. If you don't know what that is, it's just 2 cans of malt syrup that you can mix into 5 gallons. It makes 5 gallons worth of beer, and it's got the hops and stuff in it. They're not great. Even if you brew them well, they're not great.
It'll get you drunk.
It will do that. It does what it's
It will
supposed to.
get you drunk.
But you get to kind of fumble around and watch that whole process happen, and you really, if you don't have the time or the patience to read one whole book or 2 or 3 different kinds of books to kind of work on process and find out how people do things, you have to have the mind that can understand what kinds of things you can use to accomplish what you need, like hitting temperatures on your mash, hitting temperatures on your fermentation, calculating yeast quantity and things like that. I mean, it's biology, it's chemistry, it's all that kind of stuff.
It's voodoo.
It's voodoo. It's witchcraft,
is.
and you just and sometimes it's great. And it's hard to do that if you're not a book guy, or if you're not even. I mean, YouTube helps. It's been a while, but the last time I checked, there probably 5 or 6 years ago, there wasn't a lot of really informative YouTube videos that were going to help me understand what I'm doing wrong.
This won't be one of those.
I'm sure
This
that
shit
by
ended a
now,
half hour ago.
what YouTube has done over the last several years is make all of this stuff easy. I don't go to school. I don't go to college.
Yeah.
I go to YouTube.
Yeah.
That's how I learn stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I learned how to play disc golf.
That's why you suck.
Brent loves disc golf, right? So anyways, so you being able to show up to a place like this, not just have your beer passed around and critiqued, and again, it's hard when you got a brand new person, but if you have somebody that's in there and they've consistently brewed some mediocre beers, you're like, okay, I got to come see what you're doing, so I can understand why this tastes like this. Because you don't want a homebrew taste. You want a beer that tastes like something you could sell. That's why you got into homebrewing, because you liked the beers that you were drinking previously, and you want to be able to do that. And if you do something that's not that,
Tweak it.
yeah, tweak it. And it's
Change it.
not a lot usually that you need to change to be able to brew quality beer. But, being around a group like this, I was telling you earlier, it's like the reverse AA. You need a sponsor to teach you how to brew better beer.
Yeah. I agree.
You gotta have that guy that's gonna go, you've had too much. You've had way too much. Here,
Yeah.
have this one.
Yeah, you have an intervention like, dude, your beer sucks.
Yep.
It's not you. We'll help you brew better beer. So, yeah, you learn a lot from just being in this club.
Yeah.
And what
Even
you
if
learn
you have
about
no idea
beer,
what you're doing.
I mean, there's different
Beer
styles.
itself, yeah.
There's 40, 50, 60 different defined styles of beer. But there's so many little offshoots that you can take, be it changing the yeast, changing the temperature, changing the adjuncts, adding fruit,
Changing the hops.
changing the hops, temperatures. Every little tiny thing makes a difference, and it's hard to brew the same beer twice, even with the same ingredients, same recipe. Everything's different every time. So that's another challenge, that when you find a recipe that you really like, to brew that consistently.
Learn from the guys that have made all those mistakes already.
True.
Yeah.
I've made plenty.
And making mistakes is part of. I mean, what's the worst you can do? I mean, it's still beer.
Yeah.
It's still something you can drink, and when it's hot outside, you can have a cold beer, even if you
$20
mess it up.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been brewing for 5 years next month, and I froze a beer in January.
No?
Like trying to ferment it cold, and it wasn't working, and I straight froze it.
You fermented it cold.
And I picked it up, and I was like, "Wow, this is solid frozen." Flavor came out all right. It still made decent beer, but it just wasn't done correctly.
Yeah.
So, and I think what's cool too is everyone does things different. Like you could never brew a beer in your life and go and brew with Breanna or me or Brent or these two, and we're all going to do something different. Like either the style we're brewing by how the technique of brewing, or the way someone might triple clean things to make sure they're safe, or they might
They might use Drano.
It's almost like fishing. Like everyone's got their own thing. The guy who catches a fish and kisses it. Someone might kiss their hops before they pitch them in. I don't know, something weird, but
everybody sitting here could have the same ingredients.
Yeah.
The same recipe to go by, and 2 months out, we'd sit down and drink 4 or 5 different beers.
They probably let brew taste 3 because 2 of the guys don't brew. So yeah, so we had to have 5 people would drink 3 beers. That's
So
how it
you'd
kinda
be
goes.
thirsty, is what he's trying to
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
If we both brew one beer,
Yeah.
is that accurate or not?
I mean, we've done brew days where everybody's had the same recipe and picked a different hop.
Mm-hmm.
That produces an entirely different beer, obviously. But sanitation, temperatures, what you do with it, how long it sits, everything makes a difference. And to brew the same beer consistently over and over and over and get the same taste is one of the hardest things you can do.
You know what we've never done, by the way, is everybody brew the exact same beer and just ferment it in their own house and just bring it around.
That'd be kind of cool.
They ain't gonna be the same.
Well, no.
Can't be, right?
No, we have done that.
Have we done that?
We did that before the barrel project.
No,
Same yeast, same hop, same
we did
everything?
do that, didn't we?
And it was
It's straight fermentation.
it was some of it horrible. Some of them didn't make it.
It was
in the
almost
barrel.
like tryouts for the barrel project.
Yeah,
You don't want somebody brewing a bad beer and just dumping
we
garbage
did,
into your
and
barrel.
we tasted.
right?
There were 13 or 15 brewers that did a batch of beer, the same recipe, and there were two
like
that,
tryouts.
2 or 3
Forgot about
did not make it into the barrel because they were awful. and
That's wild.
it's just
They probably brew better now. I don't even know
oh,
who it
absolutely,
was, but
absolutely.
if you're brand new, you're not getting the barrel project.
No,
Because if you're
You
going to brew,
shouldn't
how many
get it.
gallons was that thing?
55,
53.
probably.
55 gallon that's a lot of beer, and one person's beer can screw up the whole
shit the
thing.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, like you can't be scared to fail.
No,
Like this hobby, you know, regardless at the end of the day, it's going to be alcoholic, and you can still drink it. But like my first 3 batches, when I used to open up a bottle of beer, like I had to hold it over a sink because it would shoot straight up to the ceiling and come back down, and I would drink about this much of a 12-ounce beer and be like, "Wow, that was so awesome for 4 hours of the work."
oh, was it overcarbed or was it infected?
I never know. I have no idea. Probably overcarbed because I was using sugar. But it just kept pushing through, and it kept not happening, and then not happening, and started tasting better. And now I think I'm brewing the top of my level. Well, I keep growing better, but like
Don't say that.
I,
Give yourself some room to grow.
I can always be better.
They're
But,
okay,
like,
but they're not that good.
But like for myself, like I'm making better beer now than I was last year and the year before, and
Yeah, you definitely need to come to a couple of brew days. I mean, it's interesting
Yeah.
because for the most part, we all use more or less the same gear. It's kind of like the same recipe. And the guys will have the same coolers, the same pots, but everybody's got a different way of doing things. And
Nothing ever goes to plan.
no,
usually not.
Something
no.
always goes wrong.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool when you do brew with friends and you do a group brew. You forget something, somebody's got it. You need an ingredient, somebody's got it. You need an idea,
Yeah.
somebody's got it. You need a critique, or
I've called
somebody's
him,
got it.
I've called him in the middle of a brew day several times. Where I'm like, dude, this is what I did.
Yep.
What do I do to fix it? He's like, well, try that. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, if I don't
Sometimes
go
it
to,
works, sometimes it doesn't. But
yeah, if I don't go to
you can
your
phone a
fuck
friend.
first,
yeah,
we usually get him out of it. But yeah, I mean, and that's the cool thing. You can get a hold of anybody in the club and say, hey, do you have this ingredient? Do you have this yeast? Do you have this hop? what do you think about this recipe? And you're going to get,
Have you tried this?
Yeah.
Have you? Yeah.
I still hear that from the interviews I've done with the brewers around town that they know they can hit up the Mash Club and
Yep.
someone's probably got something.
We've had people like had an Erlenmeyer flask full of yeast, drop that, crack that, and they need something. They don't have any yeast at all in their house.
Yeah.
They can't inoculate their beer. They can find somebody.
yeah.
Somebody just got off a cake of something, or they've got some other stuff in the fridge. You can get stuff. If you can't get a hold
I've had 3 or 4 people come by
Place to buy stuff.
and grab yeast out of the fridge because I have
Yeah.
20 different samples in there right now. So it's like, what do you need? We can either spin it up tonight or throw it in and give me something later. And it's really a community, I think, more than anything else. Like, no one's scared. Like if you come to a meeting and someone's like, oh, this beer is really good, people are sharing exactly what they're brewing. They're not scared that you're going to go take the recipe and do something with it. And it's like everyone's there to help. It's not one of those things where like, oh, I brewed this beer, it's really good, and no one else is going to know about it.
We want people to succeed.
Like, we want people to share. I mean, and it's for me, it's kind of flattering that like this person wants to brew this recipe that I wrote. I might have thought it was okay, and this person really likes it. Sure, take it on. Go brew this beer, and
it won't be the same.
it won't ever be the same.
It
Like,
won't. You can
Yeah.
get close, but it just doesn't. It doesn't happen that way. We've got guys in the club that brew fantastic pilsners. Tried for years, same recipe, same ingredients. It's not the same beer.
I can't brew an IPA to save my life. I don't know why. Favorite style, I cannot make one happen.
I'm kind of with you. Mine are always muddy.
Yeah,
They don't have a certain crisp.
mine are too
hoppiness
grassy.
to it, Yeah,
Not
Either
enough
grassy or
bitterness. Yeah.
muddled. Everything gets lost. So.
That and Bob, I think you let your IPA sit too long.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a primary guy. I learned patience.
Kind of an oh yeah guy.
That shit's down there. I gotta do something about it.
Tomorrow.
I like to think of this hobby too, like kind of like baking.
Barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue too.
Barbecue.
Like, you see pictures on the internet where it's like, here's these 10 cookies, and here's where we did differently in each one. Like, I use, Crisco, and I use real butter, and I use margarine, and there's like a picture. That's kind of like how home brewing is. Like, you could have all these beers, and it be, I fermented high, I fermented low, I use this hop, I use this yeast, I use this base malt, I use this, and it's all totally different. But at the end of the day, you're making beer. So, like back to the whole idea is like there's so much knowledge in this club that like there's a ton of different resources out on the internet, but I always go back to this crew first. Like, have you had this issue? Have you tried this? What do you think about this? And if there's no answer, then I go to the internet. But most times I don't go any further than this crew, and it's normally someone I can either text or that I know personally that instantly they're like, oh, well, let me help you with this yourself. And they're over here brewing, or they're over here sharing information, or it's awesome. Like, it's a great group of people, and it's definitely a community for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So
if anyone wants to be a member, who they got to contact, what they got to do?
So join the free Mash page first. It's just Mash Fort Wayne on Facebook, and then reach out to either myself, Cody Moon, Breanna, Bob, or Karl, Mike McFarland. Really, anybody, just say you want to be a member, and we'll grab a hold of you. It is $25 a year. Right now, being the back half of 2020, it's only $12.50 for the year. If you join tomorrow, between now and December. Hopefully next year in 2021, we do a lot more for that value. But you're able to save a lot of money right away from the grain buys.
Does that get you into the mash meetings too, by the way?
And the mash meetings are Yeah,
It's an
so
insurance
on a
thing.
normal year when we have mash meetings all year long, it is a member benefit only. So you get to have your beer judged or talked about or tasted, and another Sunday hangout. But if you're interested in the hobby at all, reach out. There are a lot of people that open up their garages and say, hey, you come check out mine, or let me come help brew with you, or stuff like that. And that's kind of how everyone starts to learn. Like, they start brewing yourself, and they kind of get partnered with people. And you'll see it where this group of people, you and Gene have been brewing them together probably for years.
Yep.
And it's just kind of like they just brewed together once, and it kind of just kept going back. And
They're not even neighbors. by the way.
yeah, he lives
Half
way out
an hour
the
away, right?
Yeah, so it's kind
Used
of
to be a
like
lot worse when he lived in town. It's not as bad now.
yeah, so it's kind of like one of those things where it's like it is for sure a community, and it's everyone's always willing to help out or do different things, and it's a cool situation for sure. And if you're into craft beer at all, just check us out. I mean, it might not be something you want to do right away, but you might have interest in the future. And if you build a kegerator at home for your own home brew, you can put commercial beers in there too and help out the Fort Wayne beers because
Come in and split batches.
Yeah, come in and share stuff.
You want to pop in on a recipe?
Yeah,
Split
I mean,
it
like I
with
said, I told
somebody?
him yesterday, like, I have the equipment to brew double batches. I have no problem. If you want to build a kegerator, come through, brew with me, take half of it home with you.
That's the way to do it.
It's the same amount of time. So
It's the easiest way to learn.
it's a cool hobby. Everyone's willing to teach you. We're always welcome to new people. We do a lot of, in a normal year, we do a lot of events where we go and pour our beers. We always go down to Burfest. What is
Made in the Fort.
the Kegger, Brewed in the Fort,
Electrification.
Electrification, Wabash. We do get ourselves down to Indiana Brewers Cup in July.
Haven.
Brewhaven. I mean, any of the beer events in the area that breweries are at serving beer, most times we're at serving our home brew too. So stop by, talk to us, try some of our beers. That's probably what I'm the most happy about this club is when we go there, we're bringing 20, 30 beers sometimes.
45, I think was our top.
And they're all different. We're not bringing 30 IPAs or 30 stouts. We're bringing stouts, IPAs, sours, Belgian beers, like basically anything.
Raisins,
for everyone.
cinnamon,
Yeah,
coffee,
I mean,
stouts,
yeah.
Well, that's the
whatever
thing. I mean,
that was.
when you go to a beer festival like Brewhaven or one of those, we're not selling our beer. We're sharing our beer.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time we have the most beers, the biggest lines, the longest lines, the most interesting styles of beer. And we're home brewers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like he said, it branches out to the commercial brewers that are here in town. They're picking up this trend or that trend or this flavor. And it starts with the home brew. And that's what we're here to share.
And you'll see a lot of like interesting stuff being done by homebrewers because we're only doing 5-gallon batches.
Yeah.
So if we mess something up or ruin somebody,
You don't make a $20,000 mistake.
yeah, we're making a $30
it's
mistake.
$100.
Right.
Yeah.
$100 max. It's not an issue. Like I threw a legit cinnamon roll in a beer just because I was like, this is a gimmick. Let's do it. And I love it. It's a great beer, but like you can't do that brewing to sell to other people. Like if you make that mistake and it comes out bad, you're out a lot more money than one batch of beer. So you see a lot of crazy stuff. So for sure,
Sours.
You market it as a sour, right?
yeah, you mess it up.
With that's happened here in town. So.
Yeah, for sure. So,
All right.
Facebook or anybody that you know. A lot of times the breweries here in town can get you our way if you want to say, hey, I'm interested in brewing or I'm interested in the homebrew hobby. They can lead you our way too. So, just Mash Fort Wayne. So,
All right. I appreciate it, guys.
Have you?
yeah, for sure, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.